sleep in the tent and hang out with crazy people.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Today is Wednesday, June 19th. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Pride Month from the Sicilian Brothers and everybody at REIAF. I got a great call for today. I have Max with us today, Maximilian Dier. Finally pronounced it right. We're going to be discussing anything on market, off market, real estate, investing, creative financing, a lot of things going. This week, I just want to run through the schedule. I have tomorrow, I'm sitting down with Donovan. I'm going to be going over dispositions. Right after that, we have our monthly event in the office. Everybody's invited. Sign up on Eventbrite. This month's focus is on dispositions, so it's going to be perfectly timed where we're talking to Donovan, and then we're going to roll into the mastermind event, networking event. We're actually going to sit around, pull up chairs, and discuss what's going on in this market, how to sell deals, how to not find sellers, but find buyers, off-market buyers, which ones they are, and then how to vet them. And then right after that, Saturday, Pat Hilton's Iconic Messengers Mastermind event in Wiley, right next to Plano. Also, another opportunity, get out there, network, people doing deals, people in the business. Also a great time. Without further ado, I don't want to drag on the conversation of nothing. Maximilian or Max? Just so I don't...
Max is good.
All right, cool. I don't want to be presumptuous and just give you something you don't like. Thank you so much for coming in, man.
Thank you.
So, tell me a little about yourself. Thank you first of all for bringing this, right? I was trying to get the other one because you have Once Upon a Milk, which is about what?
So yeah, on my free time, I'm a bit of a weird guy. When I'm not working, I'm writing children's financial fairy tales. So it's a book, it teaches kids about inflation, but it's a multi-layered story because I'm also an economics nerd, so I wanted a story that's also for me and my friends who are also economics nerds. So if you're just a kid, you're going to learn about inflation, the difference between gold and dollars. If you're just a regular person, you're going to learn about the history of the Bretton Woods Agreement. And if you're an economics nerd like us, you may learn about some satirical jabs at the Federal Reserve and politicians. So
I cannot wait to read this to my boys tonight, actually.
Love it.
So
thank you so much.
And then your other one, tell me about the other one.
Yeah, so the other one I wrote, these are all just passion projects for me. The other one is called The Black Swan Sanctuary, and that's like version 2 of this. It goes through Jerome Powell and I'm blanking on his name, Paul Volcker, and it's the Doves versus the Hawks, and it talks about monetary policy and the war that's going on between Doves and Hawks at the Federal Reserve.
TJ would love this conversation right now. That's all I hear. That's awesome. Thank you so much. After I saw these, I was like, I want to make one for the Killdozer guy, and just go over how the government really screws everybody over. But I don't know if I can get that into a kid story or not.
No, you hide it in there. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Try to. So tell me about you, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you do for work, right? Like, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, sure. We'll start at the beginning. So born and raised in Los Angeles. I came here when I was 17 for college. I played soccer, so I went to UT Dallas, not far from here. In college, I was always starting and stopping different businesses. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I can remember since the age of 10, I was buying silver at the pawn shop and then doing arbitrage. I didn't know what the heck arbitrage was. And I was immediately selling on eBay for more money.
I love how you started out with silver, right? Like some people start off with Pokemon cards or something. No, you went straight for silver and gold.
Yeah, I'm a boomer at heart. That's just who
amazing.
I am. So I've always just had that entrepreneur mindset. So when I was 17, I was living in the dorms freshman year in college, and I was paying probably at the time like $600, $700 for a dorm. Doesn't seem like a lot of money now, but 8 years ago it was a ton, and it was like a glorified closet. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I could do a better job. I didn't know anything about real estate. Luckily, my mom's a real estate broker. My dad's always been building and flipping homes. So just was in the right space. So I went out and started looking for homes. And literally like right around my 18th birthday, I closed on my first property in Richardson, Texas. That was before prices went crazy. I think the house was like $309,000. It was 5 bedrooms. So I lived in 1 bedroom. I didn't know what house hacking was at the time, but I just ended up house hacking. I lived in the master, rented out the other 4 bedrooms. The rent I got covered my PITI, it covered my groceries, my gas, and I lived for free. I was like, dude, this is crazy. So I did that one more time. I saved up enough money, cash flowed. I worked 3 jobs in college. I did whatever I could. Then I bought a second property, and then I can talk more about where I went after that. But the reason why I only own 2 homes and I don't own a whole portfolio was that I didn't know about creative finance. I only knew you have to go to the bank, you got to get a loan, and then you got to buy a house. That was all I was ever taught. Then I ended up stumbling in the world of creative finance. I ended up wholesaling. I got my real estate license.
How did you find those properties? So you said you started looking, right? Were you driving for dollars? Were you pulling lists, right? How were you finding these properties?
It was gross. I was just on MLS. It's all I knew at the time. I was 17. My mom's a real estate broker, and my dad's always just, they come from traditional way of doing things. So I just knew get a loan from a bank, and go on MLS. I didn't even know that you can get off-market properties at the time. I look back and I kick myself. I'm like, oh, only if.
Well, how are you? So you transition fast forward, right? We're going to skip a couple of years.
Sure.
What are you doing today? What type of properties are you looking for? How are you finding them? All that, right?
Yeah, so I started and exited a tech consulting business, and then I was like, what do I want to do now? And I started thinking through my strengths and my weaknesses, like you asked me at the beginning of this talk, and I was like, what am I good at? And at the end of the day, it's really real estate. I've been good at it since I was 17, and I'm still good at it today, but I didn't focus all my energy into it. And I really think if you have a strength, just double down on it. So I was like, okay, I need to double down on real estate. So that's when I, dove into the rabbit hole. I found someone like Pace Morby. I learned about creative finance. I figured out what wholesaling was. I didn't know what wholesaling was like 2-3 years ago. So I just went all in and dedicated all my time to it. So now I really focus on the content side of things, and we'll probably talk about that. I create a lot of content on wholesaling and real estate investing, and a lot of creative finance content. But now I'm actually a partner at a wholesaling firm. We have a brokerage and a fund out in Las Colinas here in DFW, and our focus is really disposition. So selling deals for other wholesalers or realtors.
Okay. I'm trying to think which rabbit hole I want to go down. Anybody, right? So as always, guys, welcome. Drop comments in the chat. Let me know if you guys have questions, anything. If you guys have a deal that you guys want us to review, break it down, get Max's insight. Later on, I want to pull up some deals and go through them and analyze them from both our perspective. I think that would be great, fun opportunity. So all that fun, stick around, ask questions. One thing you mentioned, and I had to write it down, right? So my ADD, I will lose it.
No worries.
I'm going to take notes. You mentioned your strengths, right? You found out that you had strengths in real estate. I think looking from outside, a lot of times people are scared to get into real estate because they don't understand it. They think it has to deal with realtors, it has to deal with the retail side. When in all reality, a lot of times just networking, it's being able to talk to people. So what, in your eyes, are some strengths that you need for real estate, right? What makes a good investor or wholesaler or agent?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably fundamentally relationships. just being able to get out there and talk. You can even be an introverted person. I'm actually very introverted.
I fucking hate talking to people.
Yeah, there you go.
I literally built up my entire life about being in front of a camera, right? I was on Dr. Phil and I had a panic attack. But you have to do it.
You gotta do it.
And it's not hard.
No. You can train yourself to turn it on, and then you get home, and then you're probably drained after that, and you don't want to see anyone for the whole weekend. And that's totally okay. So if you're introverted, don't think you can't wholesale, don't think you can't do sales, and don't think you can't get into real estate. But yeah, it's a relationship game at the end of the day. But also, I think you need to couple that with actually good common underwriting sense. If you don't have a good foundation of math, and you don't need to be some math nerd. I flunked all my math classes, but I absolutely love underwriting. So if you're good with numbers and you're good at building relationships, and then you can also just hold on, because at the end of the day, real estate's just a long-term game, and you don't panic sell, you're going to make a lot of money.
When I was a lender, I used to always use the analogy that real estate is just stacking bars of gold.
Yeah.
And it's how many you can stack, and eventually, guess what? They'll pay off. In the beginning, you can only add 1 or 2 a year, or maybe one only every 3 years, or whatever it is. But eventually, if you do it consistently, you will have a big pile of gold at the end of the day, where it's not getting hit nearly as much as anything else. So that's why I love real estate.
And one thing I love about real estate is that I truly believe that anyone can be a real estate investor, because there's so many different aspects of being a real estate investor. You don't have to be a landlord, right? You can just be flipping paper. You can be the bank. You could be doing seller finance deals. You could be wrapping deals. Maybe you're more on the lending side of things. Or, you're just like to just go and hit doors, hit the phone. Well, then you're more of a wholesaler. But everybody can be involved in real estate investing in some capacity. It fits everybody because it's such a wide sphere.
There's so many avenues for payment, right? There's so many, the single-family residential, and then you can get into multifamily and everything else, commercial. Obviously, there's so many other avenues to go. I swear, and we swear by, single-family residential being the best asset class in the country for anything, for an investment. So it's a home run. So let's take it down. You mentioned underwriting, right? What's a deal underwriting review look like for you, right? So I know for off-market properties, for on-market properties, what's a day in, day out operation? How can I find deals, right?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I think you got to break it down into cash and then creative. So I would always lead with cash first. See if they're open to cash. Money talks. Cash deals are better. And if you are wholesaling, don't fall in the trap of wholesaling creative deals. Wholesaling creative deals sucks. And there's 3 reasons why. One is it's a lot more work for somebody who knows how to wholesale subject to and wholesale seller finance, or even pitch out novation deals, hybrid deals, Mortgage method deals. It's a lot more work. Secondly, they pay less, and I can talk to you guys about that for days, but creative finance investors are cheap, so they don't want to pay high assignment fees, right? The whole point is to have a low entry fee. So if you're out wholesaling creative finance deals, you're working harder, you're getting paid less, and there's a lot more liability. And no one talks about that liability aspect. But you, the wholesaler, you're very, very liable if the deal falls apart 6 months, 1 year, or 10 years down the road. You can still be liable. So wholesale cash deals. And then underwriting each is very complex in itself, but what should you look for in an off-market deal? Depends on your location, but here in DFW, I truly live by that 70% rule. Yeah, you can go higher in certain neighborhoods, but at the end of the day, guys, figure out probably comp most of your deals, not as like a comparable, so don't go on MLS and look like what it's sold for if it's an ugly fixer-upper home. Go see what it can sell for if you were to fix it up. If I put $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 of rehab, what's my maximum amount of after repair value I could sell this house for? Then multiply that by usually about 70%, some neighborhoods maybe 75%, and then subtract your repairs, and that will give you a good cash offer. And it's back in the napkin math that just works really well. I have a whole wholesaling company. We got 20 agents, and everyone's doing that math. So it obviously works. We have a fund, and we're pretty much doing that math, a little bit more complex, but that's it.
It's such an easy thing, right? It's not rocket science.
No.
That formula, 70% minus repair, it goes, and it's standing the test of time for reasons, right? It's going to be up or down markets. The thing that you mentioned, that you were just talking about, that really stands out to me, is that you're talking about repair numbers, okay? I had a very in-depth and fun debate, all right, with a wholesaler that refuses to use repair numbers. He's thinking that it's not his job to give a repair number, that it's, any of that, right? His justification is your repair isn't the same as mine, right? Your level isn't. No, but you're giving that property an ARV. That ARV is based on something, guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I'm Ryan Jackson, the Trap House King, and I can get things at a discount. That property needs to be built up to whatever status you're giving it, right? So if you're calling it a 300, there's a level of quality there, right? The build out has to be there. If you have nails popping everywhere and it's obviously caulk miss and everything, no, you just built out to a 250 ARV, not to a 300, right? So you're just affecting everything. And I hate when wholesalers are only putting themselves in that box of wholesaling. I'm fine if you're only wholesaling, but you have to understand the full aspect of it. You have to understand investing as a whole. You have to understand the numbers. You have to understand the underwriting of it. So I absolutely love everything you just said. It kicked off every notch. Awesome. Sorry, I just started praising.
No, it's all good. And yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of that, there's a reason at my company, anytime we hire somebody, we always start them in sales before we move them to an acquisitions position. And what's an acquisition position at a disposition company? It's a bit of a tongue twister. It's a little weird. The acquisition agents, they go get deals from other wholesalers. So they go get deals from other realtors, but that's more of a senior position. We want everybody to start in sales, literally selling deals, because if they know what a good deal is and they can pitch a deal to an investor and they learn what investors want in terms of deals, then they can go find a deal. So yeah, wholesalers, your goal is to become an investor. Wholesaling is, to maybe, wholesale to build cash and then go invest that money. Maybe invest it creatively. I prefer investing creatively. Don't wholesale creative, invest creative, but go earn some money in cash and then become an investor.
Yeah. It doesn't take much, though. I mean, once you understand marketing, once you understand that avatars, okay, whatever your avatar is, we talk about it nonstop. We preach about it here. I love that you know exactly what your avatar is, and I always I have jokes with Ryan all the time. I'm like, you guys just gotta switch that avatar and just highlight it on the marketing side and just go direct to seller. You guys, and this isn't a knock at all. Like, you guys are crushing it. But keeping that realtor involved, I'm like, man, you guys are, because I hate realtors. I hate realtors for the reason that they don't understand investing a lot of times. Every time that I talk to a realtor, I used to cold call them for hard money lending. So I used to do that as a lead source. I would call them every Monday, Tuesday. I would cold call new agents, new networking, try to take them out to coffee. And when they're asking me what an assignment is or what wholesaling actually is, right away you're like, all right, this isn't my avatar. I don't need that. Yeah. You gotta name 3 Nirvana songs.
Oh no, don't ask me to do that. It's Cody. No, I don't have to do it for Cody. Hey Cody, you gotta send me those 3 mobile homes you want me to buy or lend you on. Cody's the rap guy.
Yeah.
So you need anything rap related, check out Cody.
He was in our office, I think, right?
Was Cody in your office? I love that guy.
I'm pretty sure I remember that goatee. So.
Tony. Tony's my partner. What's Tony saying?
Tony's saying, what are you talking about? I never met a realtor that wasn't also an investing expert. Now, listen, at the same time, find realtors. They're an amazing source, right? Find brokers that work with agents, find title agents, build your team out. We fucking swear by that. Nobody actually does it. Our acquisitions kids are a little lazy. They're spoiled on the inbound marketing side. But man, for an acquisition point, networking. People don't actually understand what that networking means and what actually work has to go involved.
Yeah, it's actually totally different at our company. It's the flip. We don't do direct to seller, so we get spoiled by the realtors. Your guys' goal is to call realtors, and 80% of them are going to be trashed. And then probably, after you sort through them, 19% of those are just going to be okay realtors, and you're going to get that 1% of realtors who are going to be game changing for your business, and they're going to send you a ton of deals. Those are called pocket listings. You get a deal before they list it on MLS, and some of our biggest fees, some of our biggest home runs have come from pocket listings.
Do you have any metrics that you, so I'm a big metrics guy,
Yeah.
big engineer, numbers, I love all that. So what are some metrics that you use for your business? So for an example, right, when I used to do the hard money side, we used to do the same thing, right? For the agents, I used to be, we used to follow the marketing fucking wizards. I forget what brand they were, but they would have tilapias, tunas, and whales, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You would have your 5% VIP, you'd have your 20% mid-range, and then your trash, right? Or you got to go through a bunch of tilapias to get tunas, and then out of your tunas, you're going to build a small pool of whales, and then you got to nurture each one differently. How do you guys do yours? What are the KPIs? How many calls do you have to work? How many whales do you have to work through? Or tilapia to work through to the tuna to work through to the whales, right?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I don't probably have specific numbers. I love the analogy, but you can make your life easy. Instead of just blasting through a list of realtors, well, if a realtor is listing a retail property, they're probably not your right realtor, because you want a realtor who's working with investors, who's probably listing ugly homes. So already make your life easy, throw out those other 80% and start calling realtors who have ugly homes on the market. Now, even if the property, and here's even better, call a realtor who has an ugly home on the market and that property is pending. Now you know that they had an ugly home on the market and it's actually at a reasonable price. Now you're not going to try buying that property because it's already pending. Maybe you can submit a backup offer, but be like, hey, do you have any other properties like this? So now you've taken probably already 1,000 realtors and now you've narrowed it down to already a group of 50 or whatever. And then from there you can start vetting those realtors. You know they do ugly homes. You know they're listing them at reasonable prices. You call them, you're like, hey, how many deals do you get like this? And then I like to look for something that I call their sell box. So we as buyers, investors, we have buy boxes. What do you typically sell, realtor? What's your sell box? And then you sort of figure out their sell box, and then I like to rank them on a spreadsheet. Okay, this dude's a whale. This dude's a 10 on 10. And then if they are that 10 on 10 realtor, guys, don't fumble the bag. You got to follow up. So the average sales, and here's your KPI, it takes about 10 touches to actually get a deal. So that's your first touch. You called that realtor once. Then shoot them an email, shoot them a text, follow them on TikTok, like whatever you got to do. And then follow up with them next week. Follow up with them next week, follow up with them. And after 10 times, on average, you should be able to get a deal from them, at least a really hot, good lead.
What are your goals from every touch? So for off market, we always do belly to belly. We're trying to get appointments with the sellers, stuff like that. Obviously, you're not trying to do that. Are you just trying to get on their list? Are you just trying to get in their circle? Are you trying to take them out to lunch for a coffee? What are your goals for each touch? Right?
Yeah, so I'm personally, I guess, not doing as much wholesaling as like one of our agents is. I'm more in the content creation side, the marketing side. But when I was wholesaling, or what I tell my agents is, for us, we have a really nice, beautiful physical office. And it's like, hey, I actually want to bring you guys to the office. You're going to have your own strategy. I mean, I don't know, maybe you have a really good restaurant in your area, right? Maybe you have something, then sort of push them there. So for me, it's just getting them to the office, getting them coffee, buying them lunch. Like if they are that worthy or like that good of a realtor, you got to do whatever you got to do. Take them out to a fancy lunch, do whatever. But really, I mean, more so than anything, it's just getting on. It's also learning what they like, because some realtors don't like to talk. Some realtors want to talk
text.
Or only text.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sort of play into their communication style, and then just follow that.
What I was trying to get between that and what I was trying to break down is there's a big stigmatism out there that you have to lock up a contract or something on that first touch, and that should never be your goal of any form of conversation, whether or not you're doing any form of sales, right? Whether or not you're trying to invest in properties or sell fucking TV subscriptions, right? The first one should always be about education, awareness, building it, and then bridging that gap.
Well, even worse, you don't want, unless the deal's incredible, don't lock it up under the first touch, because then if it falls out of, if you can't find an end buyer or you end up not closing on it, now you just ruin that relationship. They're not going to want to do business with you again. But when you do lock up that contract with the realtor, and they're like, oh my God, how are you able to move that deal? I haven't been able to move that deal in 95 days. They're going to send you every deal. You're done. You earned yourself a client for like the rest of your life.
Love it. And Oh my God, it's so refreshing here because also it is the same goddamn thing on the seller side, right? If you're working with them, you're solving the same problems. If you're able to solve them problems, guess what? You're going to get future referrals from family members or anything like that. Anytime you're doing that type of sales. The other day on your call, and I'm going to pivot a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We were, well, not pivot, but we're going to go back to the underwriting side. You broke down the 5, 10, 12, I believe it was, right? That's foreign to me. I've never heard that before. Break that down for me. What does that mean? What are the ins and outs of it?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of the subject to underwriting guy, and for those of you that don't know what subject to is, it's when you buy a house by taking over someone else's mortgage.
Subject to the underlying lien.
Subject to the underlying lien. So you don't need cash, you don't need credentials, you don't need credit. Pace Morby's famous for this. He's the sub 2 guy. And it's a really great way to acquire property. You don't want to be selling properties sub 2, but you want to be buying properties subject to. It's honestly, it's amazing. It's probably going to get regulated here in the future.
I'm waiting for it just because I'm convinced the lenders want their rates back. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's bound to happen. Also, it doesn't take much for people to fumble the bag.
That's
it only
the thing.
took 1 or 2 investors for wholesaling to get cracked down on, right? So it doesn't take much for regulation and government to get involved. That's the one thing that scares me about subject to and wrapping and stuff like that is people think everything can be a subject to in a wrap, and there are big regulations, laws that say yes or no, this yes, and it gets scary. But if you're trying to find out how to do it, reach out to Max. He's got a great network about it. All of his links are in the description. Continue on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but just to emphasize that, you're 1,000% right. I think subject to is going to get so regulated when people start losing money and then they stop paying the payments, because what they're doing is they're taking over someone else's mortgage and you are responsible for making those payments. And it's all great when the economy's booming and it's inflation and there's money printing and everyone can afford everything. But the moment that home prices start to come down and your Airbnbs and your midterm rentals and your pad splits and all these like fad ways of investing and having disposition strategies, they start to fumble, they start to crack, and now you can't make your payments. Well, it's not that you're not making your payments, you're not making somebody else's payments. And then, I'm telling you, this is going to get so regulated because there's going to be a bunch of people that go into foreclosure, just like 2008, but it wasn't their fault. It was the investor's fault. So all these people, it's going to end up at the Supreme Court. There's going to be major regulation. I could see Pace Morby at the Supreme Court having to talk. Like, it's gonna get really bad here in the future. So just, for everyone out there, just be careful, right? Because nothing's too good to be true. There's regulation that's coming on that. Even though I love subject to and I love the underwriting. So let's talk, we can talk underwriting and circle back to.
All right, so you touched on one thing that made me twitch a little, and it was pad split.
Oh, okay.
And, oh my God, where is it?
Oh no. Hope Pad Split's not watching this. They send me buyers.
I don't give a fuck because this doesn't make sense. You can't just do this shit. You can't just fucking add bedrooms and think you're adding value and you're adding cash flow that's not actual real, and then you're fucking stuck in things. And we have people that reach out to us because the community, and they're like, hey, I had this great amazing deal come across from me. It was a subject to. Now I started adding bedrooms.
Yeah.
Why'd you add bedrooms? Well, in order to get the subject to, I had to make it make sense. So we're gonna pad split it. But now we're out of money. Now we can't finish the renovation. Now we're underwater. Now we're all of this easy investment, right? Because that's what sub 2 is in the mind of marketing, is that it's no cash to get into real estate, right? Which it absolutely can be, but you're solving people's problems of cash flow. You can't make that promise by having a guaranteed cash flow by making something not fucking make sense. Like,
yeah, so I have a good take on pad split because I personally do student housing investing and I do rent by the room, but I'm not going in bastardizing my houses and then just creating this scheme, which I do believe that pad split can be more sustainable than maybe like an Airbnb or like a midterm housing, just because it is very affordable housing. And at the end of the day, when the economy goes bad, affordable housing is still the most important thing. So what a pad split is, guys, and there's a company behind pad split, and the reason why it's gotten so much boom, again, I think it's the Pace Morby effect. Pace Morby buys a lot of homes sub 2, and he turns them into pad splits. Because what they do in sub 2, and my biggest gripe with sub 2 is that they're like, hey, I'm getting such a good interest rate, and I'm taking over someone's debt, I can overpay for the home. So they don't use the 70% rule. No, they use the 110% rule, the 120% rule, right? They're buying these houses for too much. And when you overpay for a house, even if it has a low rate, oftentimes it won't cash flow as a long-term rental. And these people are broke and they need a cash flow. So they're like, Airbnb, oh, I can't do Airbnbs in my city, there's too many Airbnbs. What if I turn my 1,500 square foot house into 8 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and rent it to super broke people on a weekly basis? There's a lot of good and bad there.
No, so I ran into a lot of these types of investors. What I'm saying is these type of investors that shoehorn themselves into one box, okay? I ran into a lot of type of these investors during the refinances when I was refinancing everybody. They would come to me with things that for a DSCR product, now all of a sudden, because they overpaid for it, now they're at 84%. And they need to max out to that 80%. Well, on a DSCR product, you need to maximize your cash flow in order to maximize leverage. But in order to maximize the cash flow, they were having to Airbnb it. They were having to back into these, how do I increase market rent by not actually, when I can't increase market rent, so you have to get creative and fancy. And a lot of times they don't work in the long run, right? So I tried not to bash on them. They are great things, but a lot of times people try to shoehorn them when it isn't, right? If it's not an actual pad split opportunity, don't fucking think that pad split is going to save your bad investment, all right? And this is why we always say you have to be an investor first. You have to understand the numbers of everything. What's going to happen if rates go up or down, what happens if fucking taxes and insurance double next year? It happened, guys, and now everybody that was at 80% can't cash flow, right? Their rentals. Now a lot of people are hurting. So
creative sometimes can be substituted for the word dumb. And again, I love creative. I'm the creative guy.
I absolutely love Pace and everything he's built and everything, the group and everything. But I think they have to understand everything in full.
And again, I only have positive things to say about Pace, but Pace is in a different financial position than these people. He can afford to bleed on a property. He can afford if things go wrong because dude's a multimillionaire. But these other people, they're going all in on these one homes, and these are not assets, these are liabilities. When you start to do this, you're just owning a liability, and it's a ticky time bomb. And pad split's an interesting one.
All right, I'll stop. I'll stop bashing on pad split. I'm not trying to.
It's the lenders too that created the problem, like you're saying, because although this is not 2008 and we're not in the subprime bubble, we do have sub IQ DSCR loans out there, where these DSCR lenders, and you can speak on it more than I can, will just lend on the dumbest things.
Well, that's what they replaced. So when Fannie and Freddie came in 2008, 2009. Right, they cracked down on subprime lending to owner-occupant, and the spawn of that whole debacle, right, of getting in was DSCR products, right? So now you have non-owner-occupied financing that people started getting creative with, right? All right, well, if I can base it off of the property's income only, I don't have to do a credit verification and background checks, and there's a bunch of holes you can jump through, right? Because that property is not owner-occupied. That is going to be part of the commercial wave that happens in the next year or so. So there's a lot of great opportunities coming.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I started the question off with the 5, 10, 12.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's me too, right? That's the fun of going live, is we can just have a conversation and be natural about things. So 5, 10, 12.
Yeah, so the 5, 10, 12 rule is a rule I created to help people with underwriting subject to deals, or even seller finance deals for that matter. Underwriting a creative deal is much more complex than underwriting a cash deal. We explained how to underwrite a cash deal in like 30 seconds on the back of the napkin using a 70% rule, and that rule works pretty well. So I banged my head against the wall and was like, how can I simplify this down to a 70% rule type situation? So I came up with the 5, 10, 12 rule. The 12 is the part that's flexible, but it depends on the person. I actually went off of the Pace Morby's guidelines because I was trying to market this to the Pace Morby boys and fangirls. So I knew that would resonate with them because he always wants 12% cash on cash return. But the rule is you should look for deals under 5% interest. So I think like 80% of all mortgages in the US are under 5% interest. So if you're going to take over someone's mortgage, why would you take over a mortgage at 6%, 7%, or 8%? You got so many options to get a mortgage at 2, 3, 4%. So go get those mortgages. So in general, the mortgage should be under 5% interest. The second rule is 10% entry fee for the 5, 10, 12 rule. This one's a little bit harder to calculate. Your entry fee, creative finance investors are cheap. Their whole point is to get real estate without coming out of pocket with cash. So they do all these crazy things.
That's all investors.
Yeah.
All investors are cheap as fuck, right? Every investor's looking for an investor-friendly plumber, but then crying when the guy puts a hole in your electrical. So every investor is cheap as fuck.
That's fair.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're sure. That's fair. But I feel like creative finance investors are notoriously cheap. They double down on the cheap. So what they look for is they want a very low entry fee into a deal. They don't want to come out of pocket a lot of money. And there's already a loan in place, so sometimes it's hard to get a second lien loan. You can. Some PMLs will lend it. But then you're paying like 15, 16% interest. So you don't want to come out of pocket a lot. So you want to come out of pocket less than 10% of the purchase price. You have a $300,000 home. Try to make it so that your entry fee is under $30,000.
The $300,000 is based on the ARV, or is that your?
It's based off of your purchase price, not your ARV.
Okay.
Even though they probably don't know what ARV is.
Yeah,
because a lot of subject to deals, you're actually buying fixed up homes. So you're not doing too much of flips. You're buying homes where a lot of times a guy bought a home in 2020. He bought a home in 2021 where real estate rates were like 2, 3, 4%.
So as is value.
Yes,
we'll call it as is value.
Yeah, except a lot of times they overpay for homes.
Yeah.
So it's really their purchase price, but it should be as is value.
Okay. Well, my head and where I'm getting jammed up is I'm thinking your purchase price, right? So if I'm looking at it and like, what can I negotiate this deal for? And that's where I'm thinking the purchase price. But you're actually saying that seller's purchase price, in a sense, or for their
the seller's selling price. So your purchase price.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So let's say, just a quick example, you find a home and it has a $260,000 mortgage, and the seller wants $40,000 in cash, and he's like, so you're going to buy it for $300,000.
Okay.
Or let's say it's listed on MLS for $300,000, right? It has a $260,000 mortgage. The $300,000 would be your purchase price if that's what you executed at. Would that be a good deal? Well, let's say it's a 2% interest rate. So, it's hard to find. That would be 15-year loan VA. Let's say it's a 3% interest rate. Cool, check the first box. $40,000 out of pocket because you have $40,000 in equity. You have to give that equity to the seller. There's ways to not do it, but we can talk about that later. So that's a little bit more than 10%. Then you also have closing costs. You may have realtor fees. You may have to fix up the property a little bit to get it rented. You may also have an assignment fee. They may have arrears, right? So you put all those things into entry fee. Try to keep that under 10%. And then you want to look at the cash on cash return. Try to get double-digit cash on cash return. But is that realistic? No. As a long-term rental, you're not going to find that today. But that's the goal, and that's how you can quickly underwrite a creative deal. But if you can find one that just breaks even on rent as a long-term rental and truly breaks even, then you're good.
My next question was actually going to be, what are you using for market rent for calculations and such, right? So what scares me in that scenario is, just from the lender's perspective, there are so many arrogant people out there that thinks rent only goes up, right? And rent never comes down. Well, actually, right now in today's market, if you're trying to have rentals, your best tenant is sub-market rent, because you know that person can afford, that person's not, you're not trying to maximize your cash flow, and then guess what? They're only in there for 3 to 4 months before they're missing payments, they're late fees. Like, tenants can be such a headache if you're not managing or you're not putting the right people involved, right? So I think from wholesalers, when people blasting out deals, a lot of times they throw market rent that isn't actual numbers. So
off.
It fucking pisses me off
It
so much.
pisses me off too. I'm a landlord. I got 11 tenants, and I just signed up a tenant the other day. Right now I'm trying to fill up my student rentals, so summer is crazy for me. This is when I get all my turnover and all my new people. And I was charging like $925 for rooms. I think market rent's closer to $1,000. So I'm discounting it substantially, close to 10%. And I just rented the room out at $850. So I rented out 15% below market value. Do I care? No, I got a guy who's in the military. He's going to clean my house. He's going to take great care of it, and I don't have to deal with, he signed a 12-month lease. I don't have to deal with vacancies. I'm not going to have to deal with maintenance. It's headache-free.
Yeah.
I'd much rather do that. So yeah, if you try to market those rooms at $1,050, $1,100, you may get a tenant, but he's going to end up leaving in 2 months, and then you're going to have vacancies. And vacancies is what causes people to go bankrupt. It has nothing. It's not because you rented your market below market rent and you bled a little bit of money. That's not what causes bankruptcies. It's vacancies that cause bankruptcies. So rent your properties cheaper. Tony here, my partner, he owns a dozen sub-2 homes. All of the properties that he owns are long-term rentals. He's doing things the right way. And he rents his properties usually like 10% below market rent, but he gets like 100 applicants. And from those 100 applicants, he chooses the best person. And then now he has a tenant who's going to stay in there for probably 3 years. That's perfect. That's what you need.
So when you're doing your student housing, what's that look like? What's your avatar for a student housing house? Is it a 4-plex, 2-plex? What?
I love student housing. That's a whole podcast in itself. It depends on your location and your school. Mm-hmm. So, UT Dallas, surrounding areas, we don't have really any multifamily or any small multifamily. We only have residential properties. So what I would say is the scale of economics turn in your favor after about 4 bedrooms. Because a 3-bedroom house, let's take a scenario. So like for my situation, these houses, let's say a 3-bedroom house in Richardson or Plano or any of those surrounding areas, Garland, and it's a nice house. Maybe it rents for, I don't know, $3,000 a month.
Are you doing sorry, I'll let you keep
going. Yeah, sure. But then how much can you rent a bedroom for? $1,000 a month. So do I want 3 tenants or do I want 1 tenant paying $3,000? I'll take the 1 tenant all day long. But now at 4 bedrooms, now I'm getting $4,000 versus what would a 4-bedroom house rent for in Garland or Richardson or Plano? Maybe $3,000, maybe $3,100, maybe $3,200. You're not going to get much more money, but I got an extra $1,000. So really you want to look for whether that's small multifamily, well, multifamily should always be over 4 units, or residential, you should look for something with at least 4 bedrooms. And then you really start to make money when you get to the 5 bedrooms and the 6-bedroom mark. Or you can go the pad split route and start to do 7, 8,
stuffing bedrooms
10,
in the outhouse.
12. Did you know pad splits, someone was telling me that they're having problems with Fort Worth. Fort Worth is cracking down on pad splits, putting in regulation.
Shocking. That's all it has to do. Next thing you know, you have a 9-bedroom, fucking 2-bathroom house in Fort Worth that you can't sell because nobody wants a fucking
Which sucks for people like me because I've been doing it for 8 years. I've been doing it above the board. I've been doing everything correctly, and I have beautiful properties that I keep nice. But then you get this pad split craze, and then they're going to end up ruining my business. So like the Airbnb, you had a lot of Airbnb people who are doing things the right way, doing things great, but then you had bad actors come in, then you had the hotel lobbying and all this stuff, and now Airbnbs are illegal in a lot of places in DFW.
What when you're doing the student housing, are you just doing 1 person, 1 bedroom, or okay? Yeah,
so again, depends on your school. There's so many, it's so school dependent. Is your school a commuter school? Is there a lot of international students? If there's a lot of international students, then you want houses located close to campus because they don't have vehicles. If it's a commuter school, a lot of these people are going to be living at home, so then they may not want to live at your property. Or if they do want to live at their property, they're going to want to probably go back home for the summer, right? There's so many factors that play into it. Maybe they'll have their own furniture, maybe they won't. So it's very school dependent, and it's actually understanding your school that you're feeding properties to. But more or less, I'm just doing a single family home. I'm trying to find homes with minimum 3 bathrooms, full bathrooms. So in real estate, creating bedrooms like Pad Split does, it's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
I turned a dining room into a bedroom. It cost me like $1,000. Just put soundproof insulation into the walls. I put a door. We're done. All right. Then I put a vent for the AC. That's it. But creating a bathroom can cost $10,000. So I don't want to be adding bathrooms. I want to be adding bedrooms. So look for a house that already has 3 bathrooms, and then you can add the bedrooms if there's space. You can convert a garage for 10 grand, add 2 bedrooms there, and then you'll have a good student housing property.
And you're still only doing 1 person? Because the only reason I'm saying this, I don't know anybody that I went to college with or any of my asshole friends that went to college. They always had roommates, right?
Yeah.
So
1 person per bedroom.
Yeah.
I could be renting it to 2 people per bedroom.
Start stacking kids in there, man.
But my whole point is I don't want the problems that Pad Split's having.
Yeah,
it's not worth it to me as a landlord. I'm making a ton of cash flow. Like with what I'm doing, I'm very happy, but I don't want the headache of having to go and deal with all these people and the drama in the city. I just want to be a good landlord.
Yeah. No, and that's what it comes down to for the majority of people, right? Like, if landlords have such a bad rap, but they much rather be a good landlord, have good tenants, have people that respectful, take care of the places.
Yeah.
Our tenants put up a new fence, right? Like,
Yeah.
they ask us, hey, the fence is kind of falling apart. Oh, sorry about that. Do you mind if we put up a new one? No. And they went up, put up a fence. All right, we'll keep the rent the same next year, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll pay them back some way. But at the end of the day, I know they're taking care of our asset. Our asset is appreciating. We're having tax write-ups off it, so we're getting benefits. And I'm not having to play the market where everybody can't afford milk right now. I know my tenants are in place. They have jobs. Like, stress is off the table on that one, right? Now we have to go up in Sherman. Now we're dealing with a different avatar, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I can speak for that as a renter myself. I personally rent my primary residence, which is a whole debate that we could get into versus should you rent your primary residence or should you own it? I got in a fight with all these people on Facebook who thought, I was wrong, that you shouldn't be renting your primary residence. And what does this guy know? Well, I mean, I feel like I know. Renting right now is so much cheaper than owning. I'm not saying don't own your primary, but if you're renting, don't feel bad. Like I can, my house.
I would say right now you have the opportunity to save. You would have strong. This would be a great debate, right? Like,
Yes.
I can go back and
Exactly.
no. I had friends offshore. I used to be an offshore engineer. I had friends that would just rent for a decade instead of buying. And the whole time I'm like, you're just paying somebody else's mortgage. At the end of the day, you can either pay your mortgage or somebody else's. I absolutely agree. Right now, I talked my friends out of rentals to re-up leases in different ones. Right? I had one friend that was in a new construction home as a tenant. He was paying fucking $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and I'm like, that rent's going to go up because taxes doubled.
Yeah,
And sure
yeah.
shit, they were trying to increase his rent. I'm like, you can just move down the block and get something that isn't hurting like that. And he did, right? They're going to have to turn around and sell that property. So we're going to see a lot of renters selling properties soon. I think we're starting to see all that.
The taxes here kill you. I mean, I pay 5 figures in just one property. I'm paying over $10,000 for just one property in taxes for the right to own real estate in the beautiful U.S. It's such BS. But for people that think that when you own or when you rent, all you're doing is just paying somebody else's mortgage. I'm telling you, as someone who owns real estate, when I own, I feel like all I do is pay the government's taxes, right?
Yeah.
So you're always a renter. Even when you own property, you're still renting from somebody. I'm just renting from the government. But there is a lot of benefits. So if you are going to live in a specific area for probably at least 5 years, 7 years, go buy a house, right? I don't even care that rates are 8% right now.
I'm not even going to knock you because you're renting your house, but you're house hacking other ones, right? So you already understand. You understand right now the rates are fucking high, and hey, listen, it's cheaper right now. But no, you have that argument, but you're also doing you have an asterisk next to it.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's an asterisk to the whole conversation. Yeah. But it's just that for all the people out there who just think it's black and white, that it's always better to own, it's not. There are times where it's better to rent.
The people that you pissed off are ignorant to the fact that you actually have a portfolio.
Sure.
Right? So that's the argument. If you take that argument to a real estate investor and say, hey, it's better to rent than own, they're going to fucking, the hair in the back of the neck starts standing up because they're all getting upset. Everybody knows it's better to own property. No, you absolutely, that's the asterisk. It's like, no, I'm still a real estate investor. Just right now, I'm not doing it. I'm doing this for my homestead. But you're actually using your homestead on other properties that you're turning around and renting on. So it's a fucking brilliant move. People absolutely should be house hacking. They should be renting out their properties. If you're in the position where you're able to buy your first property, rent out the other rooms in it, offset that mortgage, even if it means that you move out and you rent a shitty 1-bedroom somewhere else, that property is paying for itself. It's appreciating. in 3 to 7 years, you're going to be able to sell it off and buy 2 other ones. And
Yeah.
now, guess what? You're a real estate investor. You're off to the races, all from, yeah, you stayed in a little 1-bedroom rental for a little while your main property was appreciating and kicking ass. So.
But yeah, I mean, if for anyone out there and you haven't got started in real estate investing yet, maybe you're wholesaling, you have no reason why you don't go get an FHA loan and you go buy a house that has at least 3 bathrooms, you house hack it, and then you live for free, and then you live in that house for a few years, and then you have all these options. I would actually be doing it again, but honestly, I'm tired of it. I did it for 8 years, and I want my own space. But for me right now, I live in a $500,000 house, and I'm paying about $3,000 in rent. If I were to buy that house right now with like 8% rates, that house would probably cost like $6,000 a month with the taxes that we have, right? So it's like, I can save $3,000 a month. I can go and buy a rental property, right? I can go do all these things. So currently in my position, it just makes more sense. And I also don't know where I'm going, right? And I think that's a big problem for people is they buy a house, life comes up in a year or two, they need to sell. Oh, well, market's not as good right now. People still live in this, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get it censored, but in this world where prices just only go up because prices went up for like 30% a year or 40% a year or whatever the heck it was during 2020 and 2021. And it's going to take a while for people to realize that's not normal.
No, and people still don't realize that we're in the complete opposite situation right now. We're getting properties that are depreciating. They're not appreciating, right? So things are sitting on the market. Prices are going down. They're not using actual sound comps. Realtors need to understand what properties are actually worth. There's so many things going on in today's market, and we can actually jump into that a little bit, segue into fucking setting expectations with sellers should be fucking step one, but agents don't know how to do that, I feel like. Do we have, Tommy, I can't see the screen and stuff like that. Let me know if we have any questions, and I have to just put them up on the chat, and we'll read them.
Cody was ripping some questions. I got a lot of people from my
I
Facebook
dropped
in
it
here.
in your Discord.
Oh, you did?
By the way, guys,
cool.
if anybody, again, I'm going to start off, anybody wants to get into real estate, and if they're looking for free education, reach out to Max. He has a Discord, free education. It's an amazing group. Reach out to him. Links in the comments. Links somewhere down below. I don't know where the hell you guys are watching, so links are readily available. Jump in his Discord, reach out, ask questions.
Oh, that's a good question.
What does the homestead tax exemption being increased mean? You're going to pay more?
But yeah, so I mean, if it's a home that you own and live in personally, and that is a good debate, you get a homestead tax exemption, so you pay a lot less in taxes, but it's a lot less here in Texas.
Yeah.
And more so than anything, your home doesn't. We have a cap on how much your taxes can go up.
20% max. So right now, guys, if you're not fighting your taxes every year, you need to be. That needs to be step one. If you want to do anything in real estate, if you buy a property, if you get under contract and it's right around that tax season time, make sure your seller disputes taxes, right? Like that can go so far, that can make or break a DSCR loan, that can make or break a sub 2 or anything, right? So taxes right now are going through the roofs. They did put a cap on it at 20%. We were seeing some properties trying to get pushed 27% when properties aren't appreciating right now. So they're not. BS. That's going off of the county's some form of algorithm, and it doesn't make sense. So a lot of times, right now, Dallas County has, I think it was like 2,000 lawsuits still on the books from 2023 that are rolling over still. So the newest taxes came out, and they're all new lawsuits that are about to be filed. So Dallas County's just got a giant backlog of this type of shit.
And piggybacking off of that, if you're a wholesaler or investor, I used to make this mistake too. You are just like, oh, this is a great deal because it's assessed at. Those words just make me cringe because the guys assessing it, they're just using an algorithm. They have no idea what they're doing. They're literally not real estate investors. They don't know. So don't go off of what a home's assessed at. It literally means nothing in terms of the value. I just had to go fight my property taxes on one property. They tried to assess me from like $390,000 to $450,000. Honestly, I thought my house was probably worth $380,000 on a good day. I literally had all the comps to show it. I went in there, debated it. I got them down to 400, which is a literal win when you're coming to the government. The fact that they even came down, I was happy. But I saved 50 grand at over a 2% tax bracket. I saved over $1,000 a year, over $100 a month. And like you said, that can make or break a Dscr loan or whatever that situation is.
It's also the difference between what happens next year too,
Yeah.
right? If they're going to increase it, guess what? Taxes go up. Very rarely does the government take back, right? Like they're only taking, they're not giving, right?
And it's compounding too. So
Yeah.
if it's at 400,000 and it goes up 10%, now it's at 440. And if you were to fight it, now it's back at 400. But let's say you didn't fight it, and now it's at 440, and the government's like, oh, we're going to increase another 10%. Well, now you just added an extra 4,000, right? So it compounds. So you want to make sure you fight it so that they can't compound on you.
What?
I hate taxes.
I fucking hate it so much. Honestly, when it comes down to it, who, not how, right? Get the right CPA, get a real estate CPA, somebody that actually understands this shit, and you can fight your taxes yourself every year, do it yourself every year, but...
So we have a question
right
from
professional.
Pam.
Pam, what do you got?
So she said, yeah, we tried pad split in Saginaw, Tarrant County, and it's hard to go over that $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that's for the bedrooms. So if, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert in pad split. I think they rent by the week, but then most people end up staying longer. So they just give a high price per week, which that gives me a headache just thinking about the turnover you would have if you're renting 8 bedrooms by the week. But yeah, you gotta at least get over that $1,000. Yeah, it's a tough business. I could completely understand it. And again, I think at this moment, it's probably better than just like an Airbnb or something, just because I truly see an Airbnb bubble. It's already coming. I mean, if you especially look in like Florida and those markets, Airbnb is just, it's in the gutter. So I do understand that, but I also think that the pad split will have its bust at some point too.
I think a big problem is people think that they can get into Airbnb as a real estate investment, or they can salvage their real estate investment with the Airbnb. Airbnb is hospitality. It's reviews. It's all these superhost bullshit, right? Like one bad review because somebody didn't clean the property right, and you are hurting. It's a completely different business model.
Yes.
You really have to know what you're doing. And a lot of times, if you're just hiring out a management company on that portion, are you actually making the profits that you need to be sustainable?
And it's such a saturated business where not only do you actually have to have a good functioning Airbnb and know the hospitality business well, you got to take it a step further, and then you got to differentiate yourself from the other 10,000 Airbnbs that are literally in your neighborhood. And the only ones I've seen that do it successfully, they have like a theme that they do, where they really play into like a specific niche. Like they have a horror house, or they have like a golf house or something. But even then, how many of those can you sustainably have?
They went into that acquisition though with that disposition. Again, they did that deal first. They came in, they said, "Hey, this deal only works." It's not, "Hey, I bought this based on these numbers, based on this ARV, but guess what? I'm going to go put fucking Frankenstein teeth on the front door." That ARV is no longer there right now, right? There's no other comps with Frankenstein teeth on the front door, right? So, yeah.
Okay, so I love that. So yeah, if you are going to want to do an Airbnb, go into your acquisition knowing that your disposition strategy is Airbnb, but double down on that and have a backup, have the property still comp as a long-term rental. Because if you want to do an Airbnb, that's great, but just know that your fallback's a long-term rental, and if your long-term rental is negative cash flow, that's not a good position to be in. You want your fallback to be close to break even. And if you can find that, go Airbnb all you want, because you have a safety net under you.
Yep. And it is don't get me wrong, it is a good business model. I know plenty of people that are out there killing it with it. People are doing arbitrage. I can't fucking say that word right now.
Oh, Airbnb arbitrage?
Yeah. Which... another model that I'm not going to start yelling at right now. But it works for people, right? So it just you have to know your avatar. You have to understand your business model. And not everything fits the same thing.
If you're an Airbnb specialist and do Airbnbs, really where I'm shitting on people, and probably you are too, is these people that try to do everything when it's just get good at one freaking thing. I only do student housing. I'm good at student housing, and I don't do student housing in a different state. I don't even do it in another city. I do it at my one college, and I know that college really well. That's why I'm really good at it. And I don't try to get out of my niche. And if I do get out of my niche, I study on it for a year or two before I execute. Just don't willy-nilly buy real estate, because that's not an asset. Then it becomes a liability, and it will bankrupt you.
And I'm gonna put a pin in as a exclamation point is, don't get the shiny object syndrome. Okay, so right now, if you're a wholesaler and you're trying to work certain lists, and all of a sudden you're watching this, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm gonna go try to find student housing now. Don't fucking do that. Don't, right? Like, don't get shiny object is also what he's saying, right? He's not looking at Airbnb. He's not trying to diverge and get into another lane. Perfect one first. Find your niche, understand it, master it, and then jump into the next one. Add a second marketing channel after you perfected your first one. All of that shit.
And even worse, don't get shiny object syndrome. At least you're staying within real estate. Then don't become a crypto bro, and then you lose your money in meme coins, and then you start day trading. Then you lose your money on Forex. So then you go and start a drop shipping on Amazon, right? Just pick one thing, and then within that, pick one specific niche and get really good at it.
It's sad because I know who you're talking about. And when I say that, I know there's like people that are going to watch and get defensive, because it's not actually one person, it's just an avatar of people. But it's usually the opposite of that, right? They usually get sold on the Amazon to some asshole in San Antonio who's fat and takes dick pics with shoes still on. Then you have that same guy who's going to sell you on crypto and then real estate wholesaling. But he'll solve your problems all three ways from Sunday.
And the reason I'm saying is, guys, I've been there, right? I've been through all of it. So just choose one thing and get good at it. I've made those mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I did.
So what can we jump into right now? How can we start some trouble? Do you wanna pull up a deal to review?
Let's pull up a deal. That's fun.
Tommy, what do you got?
I like that. Everyone likes it.
Everyone loves numbers. Everyone loves seeing deals in the flesh.
I gotta turn off my text messages.
Oh, no worries.
I'm getting fucking
I get people
right
that send me properties all day long to comp, so I love it. I got a lot of deals to comp when I get home.
Step one of how to get into real estate needs to be that, right? And we always say it. You have to walk properties, you have to analyze deals, you have to look at numbers, you have to understand the math to understand everything. So where would you pull up a deal? You want to go to Facebook? What do you do for your deal finding?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on Facebook, or you can just pull up a property on MLS and say, this is what would be a good deal.
So I want you to do this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a comping class. I mean, you just want to do Zillow? We can just do,
That's my point. I have all the tools.
Oh, do you have
I have
MLS?
Yeah, we can pull up MLS.
Yeah, give me your MLS, and we can say this would be a deal, or we can also pull up Facebook and find some wholesalers. Then we can also do a creative deal too.
I don't know why I'm cursing now. I'm getting relaxed.
We're past the 10-minute mark.
I'm getting relaxed.
That's why you can curse all you want. All right, cool.
So
this is where I live. I'm a realtor. This is where I thrive.
Realist tax.
Yeah, cool.
And then
Awesome.
so.
Okay, and if you guys have any deals here in the chat, shoot them through. I know we have some people in my Discord here. If you guys wanted me to comp one of your properties, this would be a great time to do it. So we'll start with Facebook, and we can just go through Facebook groups. Do you want me on your? Oh, we'll share it when I find it. Good. I don't want to show your personal Facebook on here and all the
It's fine.
people you follow. So where would you personally pull up like some of your?
So if I was looking at deals, if I was looking at wholesalings, I would literally just do what you're doing.
Okay, cool.
You can, Tommy, add that second.
And then guys, I'm gonna wait for you guys to shoot me over a property, or else I'm gonna pull some from the Discord that you guys want me to comp, and then I'll comp
go back
those.
to-
But yeah, we're gonna start with probably cash here, and then we'll look for like what makes a good deal, and then we'll look at this from the lens of probably more of a wholesaler or a real estate investor. We're gonna look at ugly homes, but guys, if a home's fixed up, that doesn't mean it's a bad deal. It just means that you need to get your opportunity in another way. You maybe need to do student housing. You may need to do something. Land's also an interesting thing to comp. So I've actually been having a debate with land. So we'll take this piece of land, for example. I don't know why they didn't put any numbers on it. Actually, this is super interesting. Let me pull up this property. How do you comp land? We'll start with land, then we'll get into houses.
Mason!
Oh, did I put you on the spot?
No. This is how we comp land.
Hold on, guys.
We
This is
get the
gonna
guy
be
that
good.
fucking comps land.
You guys are gonna love this. Let me get some land deals out here. Because this one's super surprising. I want to know your guys' take. Because I'm not a land professional, but so there's a lot of different ways you can comp land, guys. You can comp it based off of comparables, based off of what other land would sell for. You would think that'd be the best way. It's like, hey, this lot is half an acre, and right next door, another lot that was half an acre sold for 500,000, so ours should be worth 500,000, right? You would think that, but a lot of investors comp land different ways. We're going to see the master come in here and talk about how he comps land. Another way is, hey, look at this piece of land. I don't know why I can't just get a picture, so whatever. You guys see this piece of land. The house next door, let's say, it just sold, and it's a beautiful 2024 HGTV home, and it's sold. I don't know, weird thing.
Well, no, this is 101. If you're posting your deal, Tim, don't do this shit.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Make sure the link works, right? Like if you're posting this deal and I click on this, you're not gonna fucking sell it if
Okay.
it's not. Nothing's. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Sorry.
No, you're good.
And now all of a sudden, photos comes up, and I have to try to. Oh shit! It worked.
So anyways, guys. So you're comping for land. So you can say, hey, that house next door, it sold for 400,000. So based off of what a new house would sell for, and a new home builder would buy our piece of land for a percentage of what that new home would cost. So that depends on your location. The rule of thumb is usually 15 to 25%. So in the ghetto-ish, this neighborhood doesn't look that nice, maybe you could sell the lot for 15% of what a new home would cost. In a super nice neighborhood, you can sell it for up to 25%. We had a killer land deal. Here, I'll just pull up MLS. But yeah, we had a killer land deal that we ended up selling for 25% of what a new home would cost, but the new homes were $2 million. So we ended up selling this land for like 560 grand, and we got under contract for like 500 grand. It was a pocket listing. It was one of our huge wins. That was last month. So get those pocket listings. But here, we'll start with land, then we can move to other things. So let's go over to MLS. Oh, I think it was already open over here. That's fine. We'll do it this way. MLS is finicky. You got to do everything the right way. So this is fun, guys. And this one, if your land expert comes in, he'll have a good time with this property. This was sent to me by one of my wholesalers. If you're watching this, you know who you are. She thought she had a great deal. And I was like, huh, you may have a good deal here. I thought she had a great deal too. And everybody in our office was like, oh yeah, you have a great deal. But then I actually started looking at the numbers. I'm like, it's an awful deal. And why would that be? So here's a property, and I'm gonna have to switch over to something else here in a second. So let's just go close 90 days. The map works. So, cool. Hold on, bear with me. So here we are, guys. This is Dallas. We're a little bit in West Dallas. There's DFW. We're currently just north of this location. So it's a piece of land. Right, and this is your perfect infill lot. Someone's going to come in and build a house in this neighborhood. Perfect. So this piece of land, I think it's actually on the market. Let's look. All right, if you guys want to wholesale it, here it is. It's up for grabs. Fury Street. Hold on. This is why land is. This is why, guys, you also stick to your lane, right? If you're doing houses, if you want to do land, just know land. But it's a very different game than houses. Here it is. It's on the market for 180 grand. Okay, so it seems like maybe a good deal, right? Let's look at what other land sold for. So that's what she did. She was like, oh, I'm gonna look at what other land sold for, because that makes sense, right? Like this is a 7,400 square foot lot. So she pretty much looked at what other land sold for. And here, I can try to do it if it doesn't take too long. But the other land was selling for around the same price, around 170. So let's flip back. Let's duplicate this tab. Then you're going to see what I'm doing here in a second. This is all going to make sense. Then we'll go into, so here we're going to go to land. We're going to go to quick. If you guys don't have MLS, it's a cheat code. Oh.
So we always say you have to use MLS if you have access to it. If you don't have access to it, use the next best thing. If that's PropStream, if it's Propelio, if it's DealMachine, if you aren't using any listing service, use the next best non-paid service. But always go MLS if possible.
What is your favorite out of the different ones?
We use DealMachine.
You guys use
Just,
DealMachine?
I think it's the best driving for dollars app. I think it's got a great. You can use it from laptop just as well as you can from the app. I love the DealMachine for the filters that you put on when you're actually driving. You can just one tap and just click. We always drive in and out of properties, and we always drive for dollars. So
I love it. I've heard great things. I'm in talks with them, so I'm excited. I saw that you have a relationship with them, so that's awesome. So here's our piece of land, guys. Remember, it was listed at 180. So what she did, and you can't blame her at all, she looked at this similar lot right here, and it sold for 165. And this one's on a corner, so this one should be better if it's not on a corner, probably, right? Most people don't prefer a corner, and this one's off of a busy street. So this one sold for 165, then ours at 180, maybe not be a bad deal. And then she pulled up a couple other sold comps. This one's a double lot, so that's not a good comparison. But anyways, there was one down here, I think. This one's 180, okay? And this is all the same neighborhood, guys. So when you're comping, you want to look at the same neighborhood. You don't want to cross major streets, so I wouldn't want to cross this street. I wouldn't want to cross this street. We're in the same exact neighborhood. This is a perfect comp. You can't ask for a better comp. You have 165 that's on a busy street, and you have 180 that's not. So she thought the lot was worth 180, so she got it under contract cheaper. And she was like, Max, I got a deal here. Let's launch it. Try to sell it a little bit at a discount, maybe 170. I got it cheaper than that. And then I was like, started studying. I'm like, it's not a good deal. And she's like, how is it not a good deal? There's comps that have justified it. Guys, this is the weirdest thing I've seen, and I wish someone could explain it to me. These are new homes in the area. Literally next door, I believe, is that a piece of land or is that a house? Yeah, here's the house. This guy bought a lot and he built the house. A $410,000 house. This house is beautiful, right? It's on literally the lot on the other side of the street. If you were to build on our lot, you would probably end up with this house. And he was able to get $410,000 for his house. So we can say that new homes would sell for $400,000.
what's the square footage?
This square footage is close to 2,000 square feet. So, I mean, what would that cost to build? At least 200 grand? Mm-hmm. Right, at least $100 a square foot to build that.
I think
at least.
Yeah.
At least. I mean, maybe.
I don't know what I think all in 190 with land is the goal. But I don't do new construction. Drop a comment if you know it.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do it, and that's what I want to teach you guys. You can work backwards. Again, I don't do a lot of new construction either, but you could say that, hey, this house is $400,000. Probably building this house is going to cost $250,000. That's $150,000 in profit or margin right there. But you still need to buy the land, right? So then these builders need to at least make 100 grand because they're not actually making 100 grand. They got to pay 6% in realtor costs when they sell it. They got private money. They got closing costs, right? So you end up subtracting 10%. They don't end up making that much. It's a fallacy to think that these people make a fortune. They don't. They do volume. They execute. So long story short is, guys, we just worked our numbers backwards. How can you pay 170 grand for a lot that's a $400,000 house if it's going to cost you $250,000 to build it? You'd already be negative, and by the time you sold the house, you'd probably end up losing a few $100,000. So there's a rule of thumb you use that's, in this lot, I'd probably sell it for maximum probably 15% of what a new home would build for. So $400,000 house, what's my number there? 60,000? Right? So that's what the lot's probably worth, about 60 grand.
Yeah.
But there's comps showing it at 170. So long story short, this was just a fun one. Don't always comp land based off of sold comps.
Yeah, what is that guy doing with that other lot? It's probably just sitting there, and that guy's hemorrhaging money right now, and that's why he still hasn't built on it, right? That's
exactly.
Why, so just because you can trick somebody into a bad deal doesn't, and that's goes back to my argument with wholesaler, and he's only gonna not do ARVs, and yeah, you might be able to trick a lot of people into your bad deals, but how many can you do that? How many are you going to actually have to drop out on and everything? Mason, you want to come in and chat? We were just talking about land. There was a land deal.
Yeah.
He's my land guy.
Okay,
he's
cool. Let's quiz the land
Mason's
guy.
my acquisitions kid. Say that again?
Do I need to bring anything in here?
Unless you want to.
Just
You
your
don't have
brain.
to.
I have a question for you. All right, and then we can look at it. We can look at a normal single family house. That's a very different game. And then we can look at a creative deal, right? And then multifamily is a different game. So you got different games, guys, and you just got to learn the back of the napkin math. Honestly, back of the napkin
It's all the fucking same, though.
It's-
It should be 70% minus repairs. And that's why when I have a conversation with Ryan on Thursday, I'm going to bust his balls and say, why aren't you doing direct-to-seller marketing
we'll
yet?
pull
Because
up.
you're already
It makes no
solving
sense
problems.
because if he's just going off of no repairs, it could be 30 grand in repairs, it could be 80 grand in repairs. And wholesalers, y'all are underestimating your repairs. Like at least $30 a square foot. Like I don't know how these people are telling me a 2,000 square foot house is going to need 20 grand in repairs. It's not possible.
Yeah, that big of a house needs 20 grand in paint.
You got if you text me a wholesale deal, we can pull it up and look at and review deals and stuff like that.
Me?
Yeah, I can pull
If
one
you
more
have
up.
them.
But yeah, if you have a
If you
wholesale
have
deal,
them,
I'd love
we're
that.
going through and we're
We're
just reviewing
pumping
deals right now.
But here, you'll like this one. So we have a lot here, and I already explained it to everybody else. It's a 7,400 square foot lot, and it's on the market for 80,000. And there's a sold comp right here for 165. That's on a major street, and on a corner. And then there's a perfect sold comp right here. That's 180 grand.
Tommy, pull it up.
So 180 grand is not a bad price, right? You would think maybe.
I mean, for retail, yeah.
For retail, right? So, but like off the top of your head, like what are you thinking price-wise? Like you would wholesale it at?
I mean, the thing I always try to tell people with land is, especially when the market's not as, I don't know, there's not as much money right now as there was last year, 2 years
Liquidity.
ago.
Yeah.
When it comes to
Very true.
when it comes to builders, right? Unless you're like Lennar or D.R. Horton and you're just buying large plats, or you're just adding, or you're just phasing out of land you already have. So for like the fly-by-night or smaller guys, when they're buying land, obviously they want it as cheap as possible. Meaning, if let's say my cheapest active is 165, I want to try to market that price wholesale-wise for less than that.
Yes.
Right, I want to incentivize that because in my case, if I'm marketing that at 165, or Donovan is, this guy or whoever's selling that, they're paying half closing cost, right? And maybe as an incentive, they're willing to pay for the survey. Whereas when I'm going direct to seller, I'm marketing it out as buyer pays all closing costs, buyer pays for the survey. So you have to equally or better make it, like you have to make it a better deal for a buyer.
Absolutely.
I mean, at least that's just what I've
No,
in the
I
past.
agree 100%. We would at least, maybe sell this at 150 or
Right.
something. And like you said, it's not, even at 360 days ago, the market was very different than it was today. But here's a really interesting on this land. And this is why we thought at first it was a good deal. Then we looked at it, it's like, it's not a good deal. Here's a new home that sold literally like next door for 410,000. Right? Yeah. No, your brain's like buzzing, right?
I'm thinking 10 to 20% of that is what you're going to buy dirt for. So if you're marketing that out
There
for
you go.
150, your buyer pool is going to shrink down to like one guy who doesn't really know, or maybe he can build for somehow $130 a square foot. I don't know how. Maybe they're, stealing wood or something. But
We came up with 60 would be you would have to buy it for 60.
I mean, it's 50 to 80 right
Yeah.
off the top of my head. That's what I'm thinking.
He nailed it, right? So it's coming from the land guy himself. So guys, when you're comping at land, you're looking at land deals. When you're just looking at anything, don't just stop at looking at comps. Do the underwriting. Look at your back of the napkin math. Look at your 70% rule. Look at everything because it's all going to tell a different
Yeah.
picture.
And when you say underwriting on land, just so everyone knows what he really means in a dumb term, don't just comp the dirt, comp what's going to come out of it, right? Get a rough idea. What are utilities cost to connect? Make sure they're available. Is it in a floodplain, right? This is going to play a huge role into your buyers.
But what are you talking about? Our job as wholesalers isn't to decide what our buyers do with the property. It's not to give them a repair budget or anything like that. What are you talking about? How does that make sense?
Well, if you want to sell deals, anybody can contract anything. Congratulations, you got a wholesale contract, right? But if you want to turn that into profit or money of any kind, right, it has to be a good deal. It has to make sense. There has to be incentives for everybody. The seller's got to make something on it, ideally. I want to make something off it. The buyer's got to make a return. Otherwise, you're just going to go ahead and, guys like us are going to have to come through and save the deal a month or two later, and you're just clogging up the market.
The beauty of this is that what I'm highlighting, right, or what we are highlighting, is whether or not you're looking on market, off market, whatever your marketing channel is, a deal is a deal. A deal has to make sense. A deal goes by the same fucking calculation, no matter who it is. At the end of the day, it's how you find a deal, but a deal is a deal. A deal is 70 to 80% minus ARV, whatever your calculation has to be, but it's that 10% profit, right? It's that 10% profit after 10% sale, disposition, right, charges, all of that, right?
And what a lot of wholesalers don't understand because they're not again, they're not actually underwriting. Underwriting is not just comping a property. Underwriting consists of what happens afterwards. So let's say my end buyer is paying us 80% of ARV minus their repairs. To someone who doesn't know what it takes to flip or rent or whatever, they're thinking that's a 20% profit margin. That doesn't even break down to a 20% gross margin because there's still closing costs, there's holding costs, right? So they have insurance. Most likely they're paying their private money lender at a very expensive, monthly payment. So if it takes 3 months to do the project, right? You've had 3 months of holding cost. If it takes 3 months on the market, now you're at 6 months of holding cost. So that 20% ends up being like 5, 6, 7, 8%. So the more margin you can leave for your buyers, the more likely they are to buy it. You're going to sell it at asking price, and it's going to get done fast, right? And everybody wants to make money as quick as possible, and we spend this much effort just finding a deal.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that is for comping land. So here's a property that a wholesaler just sent me. I get sent properties all day long. This one's in Plano. It's not far.
Let me turn that off, sorry.
Is that a lead? You can answer it.
If it's a lead, you got to answer it.
No.
No, it was pictures for when we talked to earlier.
So here's a house in Plano. So this is our 70% rule is going to come into play here. Actually, Plano, I can offer all day long more than 70% because it's such a hot market. You just got to know your sub pockets. Mm-hmm. But first offers, I always try to launch them at 70. But I know that I can probably sell a deal in Plano, depending on where it is in Plano, at 82%.
Yeah.
Of ARV. We stretch them to 84%, right? So if you have a good sub pocket, you can offer more and you can sell it for more. But so this house, we got a brick 4.3, 2,200 square feet. Really important that you guys remember what material it's made out of too, because a brick home's not going to comp the same as a framer. Bathrooms are your most important thing, and then you got square footage, so 2,200 square feet. And the property is, it's shit, right?
And someone should pin in the comments or on the screen, start your offers in good North Texas pockets at 70% and then walk up if you have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outskirts, you're at 60, 65% maybe as your starting percentage.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you go up from there, but like don't give them your best foot forward on the first deal, and then you bring it to me or you bring it to them, and then maybe we can wholesale it and we make $3,000, and then we give you $500 or we give you $1,000, and then you're like, oh, I didn't make any money. Well, you offered too high on your first go.
Yeah, I'm actually going to correct you guys as an arrogant asshole and say the calculation is your max allowable offer. Okay, so start fucking lower. You always start lower and you have to work up, and you ever have any issues, you show them the math. You say, hey, listen, your property is looking like trash. It needs $100,000 worth of work. Your kitchen doesn't look like this. It looks like dog shit. It's got a fucking broken panel on the side of your, kitchen. Like, you show them numbers, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right on your numbers. You're 70%, you're 65%, but start lower.
Yeah, if you're doing direct to seller, you have that luxury. Unfortunately, this is on market, so you don't have that luxury.
I know. I'm being arrogant. I know I am.
No, the direct to seller do that. Absolutely. The realtors, they don't want to listen to you. They think they know more than you.
Yeah, I know. But then
that's the problem.
At the same time, you gotta pop their head and pop their bubble.
Well, what's going to happen is it's going to come under contract by a wholesaler who's going to fall out of escrow, and then it's going to be picked up again and again and again. It's going to become a Kardashian. It's going to be a used up home, and then you come in later and end up getting it on the 6th time it falls out of escrow at your original offer.
And it makes it harder for you to get that contract anyways. So anytime I do have a lead come in that is listed, I'm asking, like, as is, right? I'm assuming a smart realtor is going to base this on an as is value, not full retail or hypothetically the appraisal value after repairs, right? Yeah. So I'm asking them, what are they calling ARV, right? However you want to word it. What do you think this home is worth if I make it sexy, right? And then oftentimes their numbers are not where you, like, they're not accurate, right? So then you can go through and kind of play ball with them and, hopefully get the point across.
And that's where the good agents come in, right? If it's a bad agent, it's not even worth trying. Mm-hmm. But if it's a good agent, you may be able to convince them.
Exactly.
So we're looking at homes sold in the last 360 days. I don't know if y'all can see the screen. Can we make the screen a little bit bigger? Oh, thank you so much. All right, cool. And then what we're going to do is you can get, a lot of people go back 90 days. This pocket, I'm just going to go back 360 on. I just put 3 for full baths, so we're only pulling up properties that have 3 bathrooms. And then we're going to look within 1 mile. And what we're going to try to do here is see what a fixed up home just like this one that's built around the same time. I know when this one's built. Oh, there's not that many options to go off of, but we'll look at it nonetheless.
So why, just wondering, why only closed?
We can also look at actives. I do agree we should look at actives as well. Actives tell a great story, and you are the actives guy. But we'll start with, but here's an active, right? So we'll look at active as well. So here's a 4-3. This looks like a super similar home. Just to double check, this one was built in, this looks like a 70s property, maybe late 60s. When was it built? Late 60s, 68. I know that because I think I have the exact same house. And this one's, this is literally a perfect comp. It's 460, same square footage, same bathroom, completely fixed up. They spent a lot of money on it. So, I mean, you would also want to check if it has a garage or not. This one does have a garage. I think ours had a garage. So based off of that, you know, our ARV is 460. I mean, we can do some more due diligence and really pencil it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to make a quick evaluation on it, I would say,
let's see what actives are.
and it might be different for other pockets, but any area where the ARV is like 350, 400 or above, that's when you want to stay as specific as you can, unless you have no data in the subdivision, and then that's when you can kind of stretch out to similar neighborhoods, right?
That
with
looks
similar
like a
year
different.
build.
Yeah, exactly. Again, guys, you want to stay in that neighborhood. You don't want to cross Park. You don't want to cross Jupiter, especially Jupiter. That's a huge major street. These lots also look a little bit different. This looks like a different neighborhood for the active, but I'll sort of check it out. It's not a good comp. It's 600 square feet bigger. But anyways, if we're just doing quick math, let's just say it's 460 ARV or 472. Wow, it's sold for 472 actually. Then we're going to do our back of the napkin math, and our maximum allowable offer, you're the most you're going to want to pay, even though I think you can pay more in Richardson, guys, or Plano, guys, but it's okay. So you would say, hey, we're going to be able to sell this house for 470. We're going to offer 70% of that, and then we're going to subtract repairs. But repairs, how much does it take to turn our ugly house into that gorgeous house? What do you guys think?
If the bones are good, roof's fine, HVAC's fine, no foundation issues. I mean, by a flat number for something like this is always 100. And then if I'm having to scale up from there, I'm going to say, like, you know, we can stretch it up. Now, I don't think this is like you have to do 100, but let's say, like, so that comp we looked at, right? Let's say they blew down some walls, they made the kitchen more open, they did something structural. You get the point. I can't talk today.
That whole brick is going to be needed painting, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about updating the curb appeal completely.
I mean, Plano kind of sells itself in the right areas, like you're saying. That's why people get away with buying it for more, like the 82, 84%. But again, this 470 comp was beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I mean, it's going to take a lot of money. Guys, and then there's different degrees of comps. Like, this is very high-end flip. Someone spent a lot of money on this flip. They didn't cheap out.
Yeah, and see, the kitchen's open to the living room.
Yeah, they tore down walls. I know the layout of these homes because I literally own the exact same home. You know, they changed the layout some. They spent a lot of money on this one. So yeah, I mean, minimums, and that's, you don't know what the foundation is. Old Texas homes are going to have foundation problems. In your state, you're going to have some sort of structural
That bathroom
issues.
was a $20,000 bathroom, right? Like, or 15 to 20,000. By the time you do the comp, right, to get it to that level, that build out.
On my side, I would say at least minimum 60 grand to probably, you know, you could spend 100, right? So then let's just say, hey, it's going to take 80 grand, right, to fix up this house. So now we're at 470, and then we have to do 70% of 470, which is a little bit tough to do in my head. That's probably around like 340, 330. Maybe
So we're
330.
saying 470 ARV, 70%.
It's like 330.
Yeah, 330, 329.
All right, 330.
Yeah.
Told you I like underwriting numbers. It's a human calculator mode. So 330, then we'd subtract 80 grand in repairs, and then now we're at 250.
Yep.
So 250 would be our offer. I mean, if I got it at 250, I'd friggin' love this property. I would probably not going to get it for that, but that'd be great.
It's not hard, but that's, now you have a negotiation opening, right? Now you have a number to talk with. How'd you get your numbers, right? Well, these are how I got them, XYZ. It's going to take me 100 grand to make this property look like the one down the street and then sell it for it. We always say you have to be the professional, right? Like, these are where the numbers come from. These are where XYZ, this is how it happens. So somebody sent you this deal, or what was the...
Yeah, so how I do wholesaling is going to be different than you guys. So you guys really need to figure out, like, your avatar. My avatar is social media and building a community. So where I'm, for my disposition company, we're not doing direct to seller yet.
Yeah.
We may start, but my direct to seller is by building an army of people like you who are bringing me deals. Now, why would you bring me a deal? Well, I'm teaching you how to get deals. deals, right? So I have a whole community all day long. They bring me deals. I help them by comping them, and then they get them under contract. I tell them like my maximum price. So if you are in Dispo, a huge tip to you guys, or if you are in wholesaling, you guys should look for, well, one, I don't think, unless you're like a large scale like these guys, don't be doing acquisitions and dispositions both. Choose one, get really good at one. We talked about that today. That was a theme. Get good at one thing. Get really good at acquisitions. And I know all of you guys who are watching this, who are in my Discord, they're like, oh my God, Max, you're talking about it again. I talk about this a lot, guys. Get good at one thing. Get good at acquisitions. Let somebody else do the Dispo work, because you may think it's so easy. Oh, just put a deal on Facebook. Put a deal on Investor Lift. Get cartel mode on Investor Lift. Look how big my cartel mode is. Guys, it's so hard to do Dispo, and it doesn't pay that much. So, you know, it's not green on the other side. So get really good at acquisitions and leverage an expert, you know, a Dispo company like us, and then we can give you a number that we buy it for. So
it helps
them so much.
It's the same legwork that you have
Yes.
to do, right? Like, people don't understand that. They think, oh, I did all of this legwork to get a deal under contract.
Yeah.
All I can do is just throw it out to the wind and it'll sell. No, you now have to do the same work, just in reverse. You have to skip trace. You have to find buyers. You have to call them. You have to network with them. You have to email them. You have to text them. You have to blast them. You have to follow up with them, just to get your deal sold. And people don't realize that it's a two-folded coin, right?
Half the time, we're the ones walking the properties. We're the ones doing physical showings. We're the ones dealing with title and escrow. There is so much in Dispo. I was naive when I started in wholesaling. I started in acquisitions, and I was always like, screw these annoying Dispo people. You're telling me I have to do a 50-50 split with them if I'm JVing?
You didn't just hire a TC and hand off everything?
Hell no. You do everything yourself. And I was like, I'm going to sell the deals myself. So what was my only strategy? I didn't have cartel mode, so I just went on Facebook. My deals wouldn't sell. I would get daisy chainers who would buy my deals, and it ended up just being a headache. So yeah, leverage a professional Dispo company or have a good Dispo partner. And what we can do differently is we can actually give you a price for your deal. So like this deal, I'm going to end up shooting my wholesaler a number and be like, hey, I want it around 250. So then he's like, oh, okay, cool. Or maybe if he gets that 260, I'll tell him a price I'll buy it for. On my side, maybe I'd actually pay 275 if I know I can sell it for 285. But now it gives him an area where he can come in at. He can come in at 250, 260, 270 and still make money. And that's going to help your wholesaling game when you know someone on the other side what they pay for it. The problem with wholesalers is they lock up deals blindly and they fall out of contract. They burn their relationships and they waste their time and they lose money. They lose option money and they lose their time, which is money. And then they end up going into crypto, they end up going into day trading, and then they end up, doing drop shipping on Amazon. It's because they're getting deals and they're falling out of escrow because they're overpaying. Stop overpaying. Use someone like us to give you an actual number.
Yeah, no, it's a great lead source, and people don't understand the actual networking portion of it and how to leverage it. Mason's back.
Mason's back. So Cody said, speaking of outskirts, you guys need to leave the rural counties for me. I've been seeing too many REAF deals out there.
Speaking of which, if you guys have anything in rural DFW, send it to jv@reaf.com, and we will help you lock it up, dispo it, and analyze it. Or reach out to Cody.
It's funny, we're sitting here talking about on-market deals and wholesaling them and blah, blah, blah. An agent just called one of our old mailer campaigns asking if we work with realtors and if we'd buy on market. So I asked him the basic questions: what is it worth, updated, and I just shot him a really low figure from the beginning. And it's all about transparency too, because you guys are, from what it sounds like, people are obviously referring things that they think have potential on market based on your avatar, right? So homes that need updating, repairs, they've been sitting, whatever. But this guy, in this case, this is in New Caney, Texas. So 7.7 is the two. Like, what does that come out to? That's closer to Houston, probably. So I'm like, I wouldn't be your in buyer, but funny enough, we're with a buddy of ours that does a lot of on-market deals for their investors, or they might buy themselves. So I don't know if you want to look at this and see. We don't have MLS access here, but
send it over. Can we PRP it?
Texas is non-disclosure, so we probably won't see the price. But it's just worth conversation's sake.
Yeah.
And this boils down to, I'm texting it to you, this also boils down to, like, if you have guys that are sending you deals in areas that you won't even look at, then don't waste your time on it.
Don't waste your time. I can't probably got at least a dozen deals sent to me that was outside of DFW, whether that was literally in Austin or Houston or whether that was in a completely different state. I don't even look at it. I just say, hey, I'm not looking at this deal because the chances that I'm going to be able to comp it correctly, get it under contract with the right contracts, and then actually sell it, it's not worth my time when I could have done 10 other deals here in DFW.
Yep.
So it's not, focus on one thing, guys. Focus on one area. The grass is not green on the other side. Just get really good at your one market. Get really good at one purchase strategy, whether that's cash or creative or whatever you guys want to double down on. And then get really good at one thing, whether that's acquisition or disposition.
Yep. Exactly.
It's not rocket science. Wholesaling is very simple. It's not easy. Real estate investing is very simple. It's not easy, but it's all very simple.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's down by Houston. You can pull it up, Tommy.
That's what's funny. We don't have to
Somebody
waste
take
any
over.
time on this, but
Oh,
basically,
did you already look it up and everything?
No, I mean, I just pulled up Zillow, right? So I'm not using Zillow value. I'm just looking at pictures, right? So when I tell him, like, okay, well, you have it at 248. I personally wouldn't buy there. How do I make it, worth my time to send it out or try to sell it for you? Give it to me for closer to 100, right? And I'm not even like running numbers or anything. So I'm like, and that's based on if his 300 ARV is true. In this side of town, I don't even necessarily think you have to renovate properties to the extent of like the Plano one we were looking at, right? And it's also like, it's only been on the market, I think he said, for a month. I didn't even look.
But what's the story with the seller? So that's the first question.
So he doesn't have any like real remarks on him. It's just sellers want to get out of there. It's been there for a month, so I'm trying to reach out to cash buyers. And so I told him, like, going forward, like, find buyers that are going or that are aiming for this part of town, and then understand that they're going to pay 60, 70% of ARV, and then they're going to subtract all the update cost. Dang it.
Yeah, I think your wholesaling game, guys, will exponentially increase after you've actually started doing investing, or more so when you've actually fix and flip, or at least done rehab on your first property. Because at the end of the day, as wholesalers, all we're doing is selling to realtors or sellers the true value of what their home is worth. And if you actually have an experience, I mean, you can look at all the numbers you want. Like, I can teach you the numbers all day long, but if you actually go in the trenches and do a deal yourself, you'll know, and you'll be able to actually sell it because you've experienced it, what a house is worth. I mean, I fixed up enough homes now, and it cost me a fortune. I was friggin' broke at some point in my life with negative money in my bank account because I didn't budget correctly, and I had all these problems with foundation at my homes. So yeah, I can sell a seller on what a house and what a rehab would cost. So you will soon too.
My favorite thing to witness, and it sucks because you're watching a horror show. But when you find the first investor, the first time they do their rehab, right? Whether or not it's a wholesaler that starts flipping or anything, right? Or it's their first flip job that they're going to do, right? That's all it has to do, because they get so locked up on the numbers, right? They say, hey, my profit on this deal is 50 grand. And then they start tearing down walls. Then they start getting into repairs, and they find out the plumbing needs to get redone completely, that it wasn't budgeted originally.
Yeah.
That $50,000 profit, they hold on to it like it's a sack of gold. They haven't collected yet. And they try to squeeze it and hold on to it. And the whole time, the repair, the job, the deal that wasn't underwritten correctly on the front side is vanishing in their eyes, right? It's like that meme of the raccoon putting the cotton candy in the water, right? Like, it's so fucking sad because their deal is just, every time they go to get it, it's just gone because it wasn't underwritten in the beginning. Something didn't show, and you have to realize, yeah, you make the money on the buy, but you collect it when you sell it, so you get in and out of that property as quickly as possible. Don't fucking shoot yourself in the foot twice. Don't try to save your bad deal by jipping on your plumbing and getting one contractor to do everything for dirt cheap, and it's fucking painful to watch.
Yeah. A lot of guys run out of cash midway through, or depending on your lender, like if you're playing the flip game based on your draws, right, you're paying a point or two on every time you have to recoup your money.
Oh yeah.
So then you're just continuing to re-pour, borrowed money that you're still, paying interest on, and you're paying a fee every time you need that draw. right? So even if like you're still within your budget, but now you're short on cash or you're over leveraged on other flips, that profit margin is just diminishing fast.
If you guys flip a house and you flip your first house and you break even, you've won.
Man,
What a learning
yeah.
lesson. That's free education you just got right there. So shoot for break even. That's great. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to paper gains, you don't get fixated on your paper gains because they're only paper until you actually realize them. And that's sort of the debate with cash flow versus equity. I'm a lot more of a cash flow guy than building equity because I don't care if my house has all this money sitting in it, like a little bank account. I can't access that money, so to me, it's irrelevant. You know, I just want cash flow. I want money, you know, right here, right now, in front of me.
What anything that we missed that we want to touch on?
What do we miss? We comped properties. We talked creative. We talked Dispo. We covered a lot.
Yeah, no.
It was a good talk.
Man, thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys.
I'll have you in again tomorrow
Anytime.
night. As I said, everybody's invited. Open house, open office, right in Farmers Branch, Dallas. Everybody's invited. RSVP. Tomorrow's focus is on disposition. Max, take us out of here. How can we get a hold of you? How can people get a hold of you and everything?
Well, I'm all over social media, or at least trying to be. I'm on YouTube. I make a lot of YouTube videos, trying to put out at least a deal, at least a deal a day at my company. We're trying to move a deal a day, but for YouTube, I'm putting out at least a video or two a day. I'm all over Facebook, and you can join my Discord. I think the Discord's the coolest thing that we offer. It's an absolutely free Discord, and really my goal is to help you get your first deal. So I've helped a lot of wholesalers get their first deal. You know, Kylie Cole, Patrick White, Ryan Binion. I've helped a lot of you guys, and I want to help a lot more. So jump in there. We're called the Wholesalers. We're all pirates. We're sailors, and we have a good time. We just talk real estate, and really like my new message that I live off of is like wholesale cash real estate. And then take that cash that you're earning, take that experience that you're earning, take all that knowledge, and then go invest in creative finance deals. So go invest in that sub 2. When you know about the regulations and the problems involved with it, go invest in seller finance deals, go buy real estate, but get your reps in by wholesaling cash and earn your money wholesaling cash. Yep. So yeah, come and find me, guys. I'd love to have you.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you for tuning in. And if you guys need anything, reiaf.com, reach out. We're always available. Keep crushing it, guys. Peace.
Boom.
Boom. Oh, you have the little.